Kobe Bryant might not be around anymore, but the knowledge and wisdom that he's provided the NBA community continue to prove valuable today. James Harden was just traded to the Los Angeles Clippers, and the team subsequently went on a big losing streak. This reminds us of a statement that Kobe made a few years ago regarding Harden and what the future might hold for him in his career.
So are you saying you don't think James Harden and the Rockets, as constructed, can win a title?
Not with this style of play, it won't win.
It was a couple of years ago when James Harden started to get on an offensive tear that the league hadn't seen in decades with the Houston Rockets. To provide an example of when this upcoming statement from Kobe was given, it was said after Harden scored at least 30 points in the 27th straight game. He had just dropped 44 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, helping him have the third longest streak of all time in that category. Only Wilt Chamberlain had been able to score over 30 points in more consecutive games. Wilt scored over 30 points in 31 straight games and 65 straight. However, despite the unbelievable offensive performances, Harden and the Rockets were just 31-22 on the season. This sparked people asking the legendary Kobe about what he feels about Harden's ridiculously impressive scoring streak. Here's what Kobe had to say. "Well, I think he has to do what he has to do for his team to win, and there are certain levels to it. So there's the style of play in which he's using, which I'm not a fan of in terms of winning championships. I don't think that style's ever going to win championships."
I'm not a fan of in terms of winning championships. I don't think that style is ever going to win championships.
As you can probably imagine, the message was loud and clear for most people in the NBA community. After all, Harden hadn't had much playoff success of his own up to that point in his career. Many agreed that being incredibly ball-dominant wouldn't lead to championships down the line, but that didn't mean it wasn't necessary for the Rockets to remain alive. In fact, Kobe even finished that conversation by saying, "But at the same time, you have to keep your team's head above water to win games. So, you must do what you have to do to win games." And he's doing it.
But at the same time, you have to keep your team's head above water to win games. So you have to do what you have to do to win games, and he's doing that.
This second statement is what Harden related to when he got informed of the comments that Bryant had made. Harden immediately came out and said, I have to be ball dominant just because we have injuries. We had injuries throughout the course of the year, but when we get Chris in a rhythm and Eric back and get our full roster, we got multiple guys that can make plays, multiple guys that can dominate the ball." While he was correct, he remained heavily ball dominant for the remainder of the season, and Houston couldn't go down and win a championship in the way that they were hoping. To put into perspective how ball dominant he was that year, Harden had a ridiculous 40.3% usage rate. It's the second highest usage rate in league history, and yet it's a stat that means nothing in correspondence to winning. The 7th highest usage seasons have seen players not make it out of the first round in the playoffs. Even Kobe himself has had high usage seasons of 38.7 and 32.9, but couldn't win with either of those seasons. The year that Bryant won a championship was when he had a usage rate of just 32.3, the 7th highest of his career. Clearly, there's a correlation there to that statistic and winning championships, and Harden is on the wrong side of them. That year wasn't the only year that Harden was in a situation where he could win a championship, but he and the team couldn't rise to the occasion. It's made Kobe's comments ring louder to those who don't believe Harden can elevate a team to a championship level. When he decided that he didn't want to be playing for the Rockets anymore, they traded him over to the Brooklyn Nets. This wasn't just a normal trade to a different team, though, as it sparked the beginning of a big three between himself, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. Injuries tore through this team in the postseason, with Kyrie missing time and Harden tweaking his hamstring, limiting his mobility. Kevin Durant carried the entire opening series against the Milwaukee Bucks. It just wasn't enough, and the team got bounced far earlier than anticipated. What was more shocking was that Harden demanded a trade in the ensuing offseason. He did play 44 games in the second season with them, though everybody knew that it was just a matter of time before he left. You could tell that he was waiting to get out of the organization when he was on the court. This meant that after just one unfortunate injury-riddled season, he wanted out again. This time, he got shipped to another championship contender in the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid. Once again, this was a situation where he could win it all, and it didn't happen. He played 21 games with the 76ers once he was traded there halfway through the season. They didn't get very far in the postseason, and his numbers were good, but nothing phenomenal. The following season saw him suit up for 58 games and get a full offseason to gain chemistry with everybody, particularly with Joel Embiid. This was one of his best statistical seasons since his dominance with the Rockets, yet you could just feel that playoff disappointment looming, and it showed up right on cue. The 76ers were bounced early in the playoffs, and Harden wasn't able to rise to the occasion in the most important games of the year. For example, he had just 9 points in a very important Game 7. He had a 30 plus-minus in that game and made 3 of his 11 shot attempts with 5 turnovers. It was another year when his playing style was taken advantage of in the most important phase of the game. Then, he demanded a trade again in the offseason, and this time, he went out of his way to force out of the franchise. He was shipped to the Los Angeles Clippers this season, and the results are just once again the same. Everybody quickly pointed out that Harden needed to change his playing style if he wanted to fit in with the Clippers and help them win a championship with all their talent. At the end of the day, it's not easy to win when you have 4 ball-dominant players on one roster in Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard sharing the floor with Harden. In the first 5 games with the Clippers, Harden didn't budge on his style, and the team lost the first 5 games with him. The only reason things began to take a positive turn was when Westbrook went to management and said that he'd come off the bench to make things easier for everybody. Westbrook was playing good basketball at the time, yet the fact he was the one to step up instead of Harden says what we need to know. Harden isn't going to be changing his playing style anytime soon. He'll also have to learn to take a step up in the postseason rather than wilt away. There's a lot to figure out, but all signs point to Bryant being correct all those years ago, when he said that his playing style wouldn't win him a championship. The thing with Harden is that we've seen him become less ball-dominant in the last couple of seasons. Basically ever since he joined the Nets and knew that he had to work with other stars. In those seasons that he's been less ball-dominant, he's gone into the playoffs. Where the problem has arisen with his playing style comes from the postseason performances he's put up, and the lack of patience he has with his teammates before jumping ship. Leaving the Nets after one bad injury-riddled season, then leaving the 76ers after a disappointing playoff run after being there for just 1.5 years. He's not patient, and he wants to win now. That type of impatience, coupled with his still high usage rate and his inability to raise his game in the playoffs, is a bad combination. And if you aren't aware of what we mean by him not raising his play in the postseason, let's dive deeper into that. Because in the NBA, it's easy to use a simple playing style throughout the length of a long 82-game season. However, when you make it into the playoffs, you play the same team up to 7 times in a row. The other team will get very used to what you do and come up with brand new strategies to throw you off on the court, something that everybody has to deal with. Harden historically hasn't been able to deal with that on a consistent basis, and it's forced him to have horrible efficiency in the playoffs. He's passed 41.5% shooting from the field just 2 years in the playoffs, dating back to 2015. His most recent disappointing campaign came with the 76ers in that 7-game loss to the Boston Celtics, a series that he shot just 40.5% of his shots and averaged 3.2 turnovers a game. Something has to change with the way that he's playing, or he has to have the patience to gain chemistry and give it another crack with a team. This season with the Los Angeles Clippers certainly feels like the last chance for James Harden to win a ring. There's not going to be many teams jumping out of their seats to go and grab him in free agency or via a trade. He has to find a way to make it work alongside 3 other great basketball players. Whether making it work means that he has to play without the ball in his hands, or that he simply has to understand when to give it to his teammates and when to take shots himself, he must figure something out. Anything less than a championship with the currently constructed Clippers roster is a disappointment, so it's all or nothing right now in Los Angeles. I'm rooting for Harden to turn things around and get himself a ring, but it's clear and obvious that he needs to change his tendencies and lift his playoff performances to what we expect from somebody who shoots as much as he does. So, with Harden already at 34 years of age and slowing down in production, he's only got a limited number of opportunities left to prove Kobe Bryant wrong about his playing style, not winning a championship. Otherwise, we can all point to Kobe and say that he knew it from the very beginning.